Welcome back, everybody. Chapter 6 of our 12-part series. I'm here once again together with Mark Cowan, the CEO of Put It Forward. Mark, how are you today?
I am fantastic today, Jim. Looking forward to this conversation especially.
And this conversation is all about ABM, account-based marketing, a very hot area in the B2B marketing space today. Let's jump right in and talk about what exactly does flipping the funnel mean. So ABM as a concept or methodology is really all about identifying who is looking for what within the enterprise and identifying intent. Can you talk to us about the ABM problem today and why sometimes solutions don't get to the heart of the actual problem, which is identifying who within the enterprise has a need and exactly what that need is?
Well, you just touched on two really important things, Jim, that I think are very germane to the ABM conversation. And I'm not going to get into what's right or wrong about approaches here. One is I think that it needs to be accepted or understood for this conversation that ABM is about a methodology. There are a number of ABM tools and technologies out there, but they are not in themselves the be-all end-all of an ABM approach. They are a function of an approach or within an approach. And the second piece is, to your point, it's the A stands for account, right? And it stands to identify the organization that is actually looking, interested in the market, perusing, researching, what have you, a particular subject area. And there's a number of different techniques that you can use to identify that organization, and then how you act on that is really part of your ABM methodology. It's less so about the contact, right? Contact-based marketing is something different, related, and we're going to talk about that separately, I think, but it might be outside the boundaries. So I think it's just important to say that ABM is a methodology as a baseline. And secondly, that there is a differentiation between the account activity and the individual activity, the contact in the account.
Drilling a little bit deeper, we talk about an account. Sometimes people engage in an account really not understand the account's needs, or sometimes the sentiment driven from an account is different from a contact within that account. And it goes back to what you're referring to as maybe CBM, contact-based marketing versus account-based marketing. Can you drill a little bit deeper into that area? Because this is the crux of the whole matter here, in my opinion.
Sure, and I'll try and do it justice in the time that we have here. First, you need to think about at the top level. An organization has an objective, right? Let's say you have a large global, organization, or maybe a national or a regional organization. It has a mission. It's trying to pursue and execute against that objectives that they see as part of their mission. Those objectives actually are related to the account-based activity. And that's what, ABM technology vendors and ABM methodologies seek to do, is help identify which objectives of an account are aligned with, perhaps a solution or a problem that they can solve for. Now that relates to the identifying a particular need. It doesn't mean that there's a sentiment around a sense of urgency around it and so on. The sentiment is expressed by the individual, right? How well are they engaging with a particular piece of content? How well are they showing up to webinars or events, or responding to an individual and so on. So there's a differentiation there, I think, that's important in between what's happening at an account level from a signaling perspective and what's happening at the contact level from.
Let me press you there. So an individual within an account may have their own agenda, which might be very different from the enterprise itself. How do you decipher agendas and prioritize?
I think you decipher by understanding the correlation of their activities. That really is more the art, I think, frankly, of the ABM methodology, is interpreting, that signals that are coming from both the account and the individual to interpret and understand what's actually the intent of both of those parties, right? Either as the singular or as the, as the group. For instance, you could have a group of individuals inside of an organization that's researching a particular subject matter, and maybe they're researching it for one of several reasons. It doesn't mean or correlate to the fact that the organization or the account has a particular need in that area. Sometimes there's a tight correlation, and sometimes there is none at all, or it's not obvious. And so I think it's part of the art, as it were, of understanding what the intent is, as opposed to what the raw signal data may be telling you.
So you hit on something very interesting there, is the art and science piece, because there are some customers of ABM solutions that are a little bit frustrated. And that means they haven't quite nailed the art element. They think it's all science, all technology. You press this magic button and everything just works perfectly. But having that, I'm glad you mentioned the art element. How can Put It Forward help with that element of art to support really understanding how you could better position within an account?
It's really about understanding the correlations of particular activities, right? So what we do in that space is help identify the patterns that may be seemingly disconnected, and saying, hey, there's correlations here in between these, activities or actions or events that will potentially trigger a result that you're looking for. And so we layer in some technology and some smarts and some, intelligence and insights, into this to say, okay, hey, once we start monitoring the data and start doing all these other things and have some particular, algorithms and some smarts in there that say, hey, okay, these particular events as they're happening are correlated together. They're causal. They're not disconnected and random. And so what we do in that space is say, okay, hey, here's the story that you need to pay attention to, or the individuals in that story that you need to pay attention to, and what it really means.
So can you walk us through the Put It Forward and ABM process? Talk about what you refer to as discrete moments and how all the elements need to flow and work together.
Sure. I think this could be a longer conversation, but I'll just try and keep it, pretty simple here. We work with the data that's needed in order to help understand an insight or develop and understand an insight. Now, that data could be some of the first-party data, it could be third-party data, it could be application data. It often is pieces of that coming together. We talked earlier in one of the earlier conversations that we had specifically around first-party data. That's a much deeper conversation on its own, and definitely is a big component to this story as well. Third party, as well as market data and event data, that's coming from your applications and engagements are the other, I'd say, raw materials that go into that. Now, what we do obviously is connect those things together in an intelligent way that the data as it's coming together will start forming a story. And we do this by layering in some smarts inside Put It Forward over that to help identify the correlations. Now, not just the correlations in that data, but also benchmarking it against other data sets and other experiences that are out there, so that you can help identify, oh, these group of activities that are correlated around an event that I'm looking for, it actually means something or doesn't mean anything, or what does it mean? And then from that, there's a configuration engine that we use to set up the rules or triggers or events that that you want to drive from that. Perhaps that's, have somebody call somebody, invite a person to a high value event, send them an email, send them a message or a piece of content or a promotion or a code or a coupon or something, right? And then the corresponding process flows that are associated with that to trigger, to run those processes and track them through to fruition, because they live, right? It's not a fire and forget type of setup that you're following, right? Just because today's intent doesn't mean it's a forever intent. If you see a bunch of activity that's happening today, it may be correlated around a particular moment or motion inside an account. It doesn't mean that it's an indicator of something that's going to continue for a long period of time. So you can have things move in and out, is the point of that. And so you need to be able to have your processes reflect that at a particular moment in time.
So jumping into the results. So there's two core things that we pull away from here. One is predicting, very important, and measuring the next best action at the contact level, which we discussed at the beginning. And then second of all, understanding the overall sentiment of an account through its life cycle. This account might be 18 months away from a purchase decision, or they may need something closed in 6 weeks. Can you talk to us a little bit about those two elements as we wrap up here?
I think the next best action, event, outcome, thing to do, piece of content to serve, whatever, that's more correlated around the the contact level rather than the account level. I think account level, next best or next actions are fairly well understood because of the major milestones, whatever they may be, everything from concept through to proposal to contracting to delivery, et cetera, right? Those are the major milestones. The second piece of this is the measurement of sentiment, again, occurs at the individual level in so much as, what's the propensity or probability that a person is actually going to take your phone call? Are they going to respond to a phone call or open an email at a particular time of day? Metrics that we can derive to use as indicators, at the individual contact and account level when you are thinking about engaging this way.
So, from my perspective, the key takeaways are: one, account-based marketing is all about sentiment. But don't forget the CBM piece, the contact-based marketing is about propensity. And using both is critical to know exactly what an enterprise needs to position at another enterprise during the engagement and during that whole life cycle. Any ribbon you want to tie on this key takeaway here at the end?
In terms of tying the ribbon around these, I would say that any organization that's looking to do a better or create a better experience with their customer almost needs to do both. It's not a one or the other scenario. And there's, by the way, there's other layers that you would bring into this to help, feed these or these be part of larger strategies in terms of, how you sell better, how you engage better, how you serve better. I mean, that's what we're trying to do here at the end of the day, right? Is serve our customers and the people that need us in the best way that we can. And so, limiting ourselves to one particular approach, therefore limits our ability to serve. And so I think it's about bringing in more pieces of this, as part of a cohesive story and strategy in order to be successful.
Wonderful. Great session. Once again, thank you so much, Mark, for your time. That's a wrap, and look forward to the next chapter.
My pleasure, Jim. Always a good conversation. Bye-bye.